You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Bork. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome back. Wow. Yeah, welcome back. Happy Monday. Yes, I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you spent some quality time with your family. I did see you in church yesterday, and that's always nice. So tell me what you did. Tell me what the big fun was. What'd you do? What'd you do? Was it good? All right. Well, I'm glad you're here today. That's what really matters. Yes, you have joined us live. We've been doing this every day since April of 2005. Now, I don't know about your life, but for my life, that kind of says something. To stick to something that long. Wow. If you'd have told me in 2005 that in 2018 I'd still be coming to you this way, I would probably have said, whatever. But, you know, whatever. Here I am. Anywho, how many times in your life have you looked at somebody with all sincerity and, you know, maybe tears, I don't know, and from the bottom of your heart you just looked at them and you said, I said I'm sorry. Right? I mean, you say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then somehow you realize that your apology perhaps has not fallen on deaf ears, but it's not being readily accepted. Now, we know from the good book that we need to repent, right? And so when we do the right thing, when we admit our fault, when we apologize for our mistake, when we, when we've said I'm sorry so many times that you just can't say I'm sorry anymore. What do? You go to IsaidI'mSorry.com. That's right, IsaidI'mSorry.com. Don't go there. It's not built out yet. But she's shaping up to be something real special. That's right. Yeah. It's just a template right now. So get your Yahoos if you want. Just a GoDaddy template. But remember, you heard it here first on CFRN, as many things. IsaidI'mSorry.com. All right. Let's get up. Get up and get out. All right. The chart I have up is the S&P 500 Emini Futures. Normally, you would see last week's weekly trading zones. Well, that's because I don't always crash my computer over the weekend. I don't always crash my computer, but when I do crash it, boy, am I sorry. Yeah. Now, so I crashed it. It went away because I hadn't saved it. And now, do I reconstruct last week or do I wait for this week? It's a dilemma, you know. It's a dilemma. If you want to vote, feel free. Now, if you can't see the chart that I'm lamenting about, go to CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered through tomorrow. That's right, all the way through tomorrow. August 1st, you got to do it again. One more time. Yep. Every month you have to register once, but you only have to register once. And so if you do register on the first day of the month, you will have one-click access the entire month. Also, you can go to youtube.com/CFRN/live during the live broadcast, and there is a dual stream. If you bookmark that page, you'll always have one-click access. Okay. All right, so we had fun. We had a great weekend. We became the proud owners of IsaidI'mSorry.com. What'd you do? Huh? How was your weekend? Like I said before, I'd love to know more. About 6 companies, I'll share this with you. About 6 companies, including both Bitcoin exchanges and legacy venues, have taken part in a closed-door meeting with NASDAQ last week in Chicago. Now, the apparent purpose of the meeting was the stock market giants' intention to help legitimize cryptocurrency investments in the eyes of U.S. regulators and big banks by reducing users' anonymity and privacy. The main topic, according to a person familiar with the event, cited by Bloomberg, was to encourage the industry to do things that will improve its image and validate its potential role in global markets. They talked about the implications of new regulation for cryptocurrencies, what are the needed tools for that, and what surveillance will be needed. And there will be more such meetings as part of an ongoing dialogue among the participants, according to the source. NASDAQ has confirmed that the meeting really did take place, but did not disclose who took part in it other than themselves. Now, the company is officially supplying technology to 5 crypto exchanges, 2 of which are known to be SBI Virtual Currencies and Gemini, which hired NASDAQ to conduct surveillance on its trading. It also helps price CBOE Global Market Incorporated's Bitcoin futures. Now, there may be a SALT takeover. Secured Automated Lending Technology, SALT, a membership-based crypto asset collateral loan platform, that's a mouthful, which in February suspended registrations, requests, and purchases, has recently seen its CEO leave unexpectedly. This has sparked speculations and rumors about the viability of the platform. It's even triggered accusations of the CEO, the former CEO, pulling an exit scam. Competitors have been quick to pounce on the matter, issuing statements meant to convince investors to switch over. The most interesting move came from Nexo, who graciously offered to take over certain assets of SALT in an unsolicited acquisition bid. Nexo is concerned with the latest developments at SALT due to their potentially detrimental influence on the sentiment of investors and borrowers in that crypto-backed lending industry, as well as the blockchain community in general. Nexo wrote in a letter of intent to SALT Lending, in order to mitigate the consequences, Nexo, its partners, and affiliates could readily acquire remaining qualifying assets of SALT and provide liquidity to its community. Wow, it's the 80s and hostile takeover days once again. The issue of using cryptocurrencies for real-world payments rather than just new Wall Street investment options has been driving the community for a long while. The latest to comment on the subject is Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin, who seems to side with the pro-payments camp in the argument. The influential influencer tweeted yesterday, "I think there's too much emphasis on the BTC, ETH, whatever ETFs, and not enough emphasis on making it easier for people to buy $5 to $100 in cryptocurrency via cards at corner stores. The former is better for pumping price, but the latter is much better for actual adoption." Now, this young man from Russia, I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but early 20s at the most, I would guess, from his photographs, which you can find on the internet. He is the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin. Very, very smart. And when he starts talking about being able to buy $5 to $100 in cryptocurrency via a card, much like, I guess, a phone card, or a gift card, or an iTunes card, at corner stores, he says the former is better. He says it's much better for actual adoption. Anyway, here's my point. I said all that to say this. If Vitalik thinks it's a great idea and it's the direction we should be headed, I'm going to go along with him. He's got quite a track record for a young man. So now we have to find out who are the dominant players in this space, who is actually moving forward to make what he's talking about more of a reality. What would it take to be that entity, that guy, that company? Think about it. Block 72, which operates out of Shanghai, Beijing, Seoul, and New York, has partnered with the Asia-Israel Blockchain Association, also known as ABBA. No, not the group. The partnership aims to incubate Israeli projects and help Chinese companies with their deal sourcing, expansion, and global presence. Its stated goal for 2018 is to support at least 5 Israeli projects to tap into the Chinese market and to bring several Chinese companies and investors to Israel. A delegation to Israel will take place on the first week of August. And one other little tidbit, if I still got it here. I do. The largest cannabis community market in Israel Now, just let that sink in first. The largest cannabis community in Israel. Well, I didn't know they had one. Apparently they have more than one. And if it's the largest, well, how big is large? And what are they called? How about Telegrass? Okay. Telegrass, an Israeli community-based cannabis marketplace with over 100,000 members, has announced earlier today on social media that it will start charging merchants for some services, offering discounts for Bitcoin payments as well. The community works to promote the legalization of recreational use of cannabis in Israel and offers a platform to connect buyers and sellers via the Telegram network. Merchants can still list their products for free in one city, but will have to pay in order to expand their coverage. The new funds, raised with Bitcoin, are meant to help pay the Telegrass staff, which have been working as volunteers so far, and further public legalization efforts. The marketplace has been the target of continued police attention for working to provide anonymity to buyers and greater security for sellers, offering client verification methods that are meant to weed out, pun intended, undercover cops. While the recreational cannabis market in Israel has been going through a slow decriminalization process, the legal cannabis market has been growing fast in recent years. Cannatech startups have sprung up. Agricultural companies have established sophisticated farms to supply pharmacies around the world with medical marijuana, and Israeli investors have been clamoring to get in on the action. Stocks related to the field have experienced stellar performance, and analysts often compare them to investing in Bitcoin-related ventures as the two hottest trends. Bitcoin and reefer. That's what this decade will be known as, I suppose. There's a company, Fantasy Network, which trades on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange under the symbol FNTS. It has ended all the plans it previously had to enter the blockchain space and has just simply turned to the legal cannabis business, which, if you hadn't noticed, is big business. I mean, big, bigger than big, bigger yet, bigger yet. All right, let's look at the numbers around the world. These are the cash markets. The Dow here in the U.S. is currently down 102 points. The NASDAQ is down 102. S&P 500 is down 15, and the Russell 2000 is down 1.5. The mover and shaker, the NASDAQ, is down almost 1.5%. Crude oil in our commodity basket added $1.43 today, trading 70.12 last. Gold lost $1.40, trading 1221.60 last. In the Asian markets, the Nikkei dropped 167 points by the close. Shanghai ended the day down 3.5, and the Hang Seng was down 71 at the close. And in European markets, looks like the color of the day prevails. It's red everywhere you look. FTSE is off by 0.5 point at the close. DAX was down 62, and the CAC lost 20 by the end of the session. So, pretty easy to remember. Red in Asia, red in Europe, and oh yeah, red here in the US of A. Closest thing we have to going positive would be the Russell, currently down 1.5%. At this time, we'll go to Michael and get a recap of everything that happened in the live training room today. And when he's done, we'll be back for more chit-chat, Emini Futures, Concierge Trade Alerts, a chat with John, and of course our good word for the day. So Michael, if you are ready, you can take it away.
I am ready. I am
He's ready.
ready.
He's ready. Okay. Something I was gonna ask you, and apparently now I'm not.
Did I have anything to do with Wednesday?
No. You're gonna be out Wednesday, is that correct?
Yes, I am, and Bert's on vacation this week.
I'm sorry?
I said, and Bert is on vacation this week.
Oh, that part of it I didn't know about. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, so on Wednesday you'll have me. And me. And a little bit of me.
Dwayne. Dwayne and
Me in the
Dwayne.
live trading room, me on radio show, me in the mentoring session. So, it'll be Dwayne's day.
Dwayne's day.
Wednesday.
And I'll be planes, trains, and automobiles tomorrow and Wednesday.
It'll be Wednesday in Dwayne's world.
Yes.
So,
just a reminder.
all right. So if you can see my chart, you've already taken the charts.
I've already taken the charts.
Let me pull yours up and see if it's going to resolve today. Some
Okay.
days it's been doing real well of late. Well, at least it looks like it's doing real good. Yeah, boy, that's just pretty as you please. Now, really the only thing I did differently. I mean, I did a million different things, but the one thing that I did, and then I noticed that it actually seemed to make a difference. Remember I told you about that little bridge I have between the two souped-up video cards?
I do remember that.
Yeah, well, when I first got the new custom box here, I was having display problems, so I took that little bridge off, and my display problems fixed themselves. So I was like, I'm going to have to figure that out. Well, when I put that bridge back on, I go, well, maybe now is the time to figure out those problems I was having with the bridge, but I put the bridge back on, and it just seemed to work. So that's all very strange, and I don't know what it really means, Mr. Wizard, but that's my
At this
story.
juncture,
Yeah.
that is your story.
Oh, did you see that lovely... Oh, you can't see my pictures now. You were
I
here
can't.
at the open of the show, were you?
Yeah, I was here. I think I was.
I displayed a photograph. It says, sorry. And it's got the little asterisk. And then underneath it in fine print, it says, for a limited time only. May apply to something I said when I was hungry, or angry, or hangry, or before I had coffee. Maybe I'm sorry I'm awesome, or sorry I'm not sorry. Whatever. Not responsible for damages resulting from any unnecessary drama, provided as is, so take it or leave it. Results may vary. Terms and conditions apply. Other restrictions apply. I said I'm sorry.com. True story, man.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I said
I
I'm
was-
sorry.
I was-
.com.
we were having a conversation, as adults will do occasionally when other adults come over to their place of residence. And because you don't spend a lot of time with other adults, sometimes you could act childishly. But anyway, I said something that caused offense to my beloved spouse across the room. And she made a sharp and biting remark, I believe. And I looked at her, and it's one of those moments where, you know, everybody's talking. It's like there's just a buzz in the room, noise, background noise, and everybody just stops talking, just because you're speaking loud because you've got to speak over the roar of the crowd.
Right.
But for whatever reason, just as you open your mouth, they all stop. Like somebody hit freeze frame in the movies. And so you're yelling for no reason in a silent room. I said I'm sorry. And then I looked down at my sister-in-law who was sitting right next to me. And I go, .com. She's like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I whipped out my smartphone, and I asked GoDaddy if I could have I said I'm sorry.com, and GoDaddy said, well, for $8 you can have it. Yes you can. And for another $2 you can have I said I'm sorry.us, and I said I don't need that. I just want the .com. So there you go. I figure I'm going to find a billionaire who has done something atrocious. I don't know, with somebody named Stormy, perhaps. What do I know? And he's apologized again and again. But the one thing he hasn't done, the incredibly clever thing that could win back the love of his life, would be presenting her with the domain that says, I said I'm sorry.com. And all sorts of pictures and prizes and, you know, gift cards that she can go and... The only thing that bums me out is I can only sell it once. See?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe I rent it. Oh, that's it. Because these things tend to blow over, right?
Yeah.
Ah, you rent it for a week, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, okay. All right, well, I'll hit mute so that you can do your work, and I'll just sit here and be sorry.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, the 30th day of July, 2018. Today in the live training room. Well, first of all, if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. And right over here, it says 5-day free trial. Click on that, apply.cfrn.net. And that will bring you directly to this page where all we ask for is your email, your first name, how you found us, hit the submit button. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know you took the trial. One other way of getting in the trial is clicking on this button, free 5-day trial, or this one right here. You click on either one of those and it's going to bring you to this page. And on this one, hit this button and that will bring you to this page. Okay, so if you want to read all that information, that's great. If you want to go directly to this page, just click right there. Okay? Okay. Now, here it is right here. All right. It's going to be working here in a second. There it goes. It's working now. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Scrolling down. Scrolling down. All right. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. As I said, today is the 30th day of July 2018. We made 12 ticks in crude and 8 ticks in gold. Put us at plus 200 on the morning session. Today it took 54 minutes and 3 trades to get to our goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 5 trade opportunities this morning. Okay, so on the month now, we're at 1980. That's over 20 days, averaging $99 per day. That's a low average for us. On the year, we're at 21,258. That's over 137 days, averaging $155 per day. That's a little more like it. Okay, so now let's go and take a look at what we did or didn't do. I don't think we missed much today. Okay, on the gold, we had, this was pre-market. This was a perfect trade setup right here, but it was pre-market. It was followed up by a momentum trade right there that was probably going into the high of the day, so we may not have been able to do that. Then it finally pulled back here, and we took a close on top of the trend line right there for 8 ticks. That's where we got the goal for the day. There was one more bounce right here. That was right at, yeah, right. Oh, I thought it was later than that. But anyway, I missed it, and it had moved up into profit before I could get it. And you see since then, it's moved down, and it's giving a shorting opportunity right here from 31.6. If you didn't get into that, it's too late to get into it because it was a momentum trade. All right, on the euro, we didn't do a thing with the euro today. We kept drawing trend lines everywhere, but things just, they only came together in one spot right here, and it went 4 ticks into profit and then came back down. So that would have been a break even. Okay. And since then, the euro is just flattened out. Oh, and we rolled gold to the Z contract. Dwayne, I texted that to you just so you know. We rolled gold to the Z contract this morning. Crude oil. Let's see. We had started out with a break even here on crude. Okay, that eventually did what it should have done. The green line got up into the cycle, and it didn't put in a higher swing, but it did move up. Okay, then we got 2 ticks right here. We got 2 more ticks over here. Okay, I didn't do this one right here. That bounced off the BPC because the cycle was flattening right in the middle. Did this one right here. We picked up 8 ticks on that. So we got 2 and 2 and 8. So we got up to 12 ticks there. We missed this one. It was right at the end of the session, so I wasn't too keen on jumping in on it right at the end of the session. And then we had bullish divergence when we were trading below the BBC, so I had to change directions. Then it did, and right in here, it had a bounce off the BBC with blue cycle for a nice run up. Okay. Since then, it's pulled back, and it hasn't given anything yet. All right, on the ES now. On the ES, we had a shorting opportunity right here that we missed. And there was one other one that we missed right here, another shorting opportunity that we missed, both of which were profitable trades, but I missed them. Since then, during the break, see, we had a shorting opportunity right there, and it pulled back up, and then the cycle's going up too steep to go short anymore. Okay? Okay. So let's go back here to this. And again, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 30th day of July, 2018. We made 12 ticks on crude and 8 ticks in gold. That made it $200 per contract. That's over 54 days, averaging. I'm sorry, it took 54 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 5 opportunities this morning. So on the month now, we're at 1980. That's over 20 days, averaging 99 per day. And on the year, we're at 21,258. That's over 137 days, averaging $155 per day. Okay, 155 per day so far. Okay, and why is this thing still going around? If you have not taken a free trial with us, just go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. Right over here on the side, it says 5-day free trial. Just click on apply.cfrn.net. Or you can go down here and click on free 5-day trial, or down here, use the proprietary indicators for free. Any one of those will eventually bring you to this page where all we ask for is your email, your first name, how you found us. Click the submit button, and you'll be sent a confirmation link. Okay. Once you hit that confirmation link, then we know you took the free trial, and we'll be able to respond to your request for free trial information. Okay. All right, and with that, we'll pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready. Okay, and everybody who's in here, I just want to remind you all, tomorrow's the last day of the month. That means on Wednesday, you're all going to have to go through the business of signing up for this session again. And we are going to have to remember tomorrow. I'll go create the new one today, Dwayne. And we're going to have to remember to put those links on there tomorrow after the session starts. Okay. Okay, dokie.
Okay. Can you see my screen? You see my screen? Hey, boo-boo. Oh, press that button and he can hear me. Oh, okay.
That button.
Yeah.
That's where the audio comes
you see
in.
My screen?
Yes.
You see that blue square?
I do. It's a rectangle, actually.
I had your chart up and it was looking all good, and then I did something. I fiddled around and it pulled it back up into the corner in the exact dimension of this blue square. Now I managed to get it unattached, and I managed to get it to display properly, you know, as it should. But I think part of the this shouldn't be here.
I'm thinking that is probably not what you want there.
I wonder if there's no way to just like refresh the background. I would know any way to do that.
I do not know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just bring my chart back and make sure that the chart displays. Although I'm thinking that this part of the chart on YouTube might not. I just know it shouldn't be there, but that's okay. We're gonna move on. So what was the recap of the recap?
Today it took 54 minutes and 3 trades to get to $100 per contract.
Okay. My pen. Okay. That was how many trades?
3.
There was 3 trades, and it took how many minutes?
54.
54 minutes. Okay. Well, they worked you today, huh?
Yeah.
4 minutes. Okay. And that allowed you to reach the goal of $100 per contract. So
That is correct.
if you had been trading 2 contracts, it would be 200.
That is correct as well.
And everyone else can, do the math. One thing that's important to remember is if Michael reaches the daily goal on the first trade or the second trade or the third trade, an hour in, it's a 2-hour training session from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So once he reaches the daily goal, he continues to trade. And many the day, it demonstrates what happens if you continue to trade once you reach your goal. That sack of money, cash, doubloons, whatever, that keeps getting passed back and forth across the desk between you and the market. Somehow, I don't know how, but when the music stops and the bell rings, almost always it seems that the bag of doubloons are on the other side of the desk. It's quirky, but tell me if you've experienced something different. So we figured out a long time ago that in fact the only way we could figure out and have figured out to fix that was to make sure we stopped and we turned the music on it when we would turn the music off. We did it. When the music stops, it's because we turned it off because the sack was on our side of the desk. Now, that's a elegant way, I suppose, of telling you that. Think about your own trading. How many times have you been, doing pretty well on the day, and then, blah blah happens, and by the close, you've returned a large percentage of your earnings, and often all of them, and sometimes even more. Now, if you come up with a better way of stopping that from happening than our method, we'd love to hear about it, because this is what's worked for us for quite a few years, and an awful lot of partners. So it's maybe, and I know that a lot of people who trade have never really even thought about the markets and trading in that manner. It's like you just want to get up every day and make as much money as you possibly can. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with wanting that. However, by framing it up with something that can be accomplished with some degree of consistency, works pretty well. Okay, just make sure that whatever your goal that you set for yourself, if you're not with us, not a CFRN partner, make sure it's a realistic goal. Okay? Otherwise, you'll get angry and depressed pretty quick, and we don't want that. So, what else happened exciting today, Michael? Anything I should know about?
Well, there is a symbol lookup issue that has just been resolved at Daniel's Trading.
A symbol lookup
issue, yeah.
No. What does that
They
mean?
just it means that they were having a problem. They were having a problem, and they fixed it. A symbol lookup. When you try to find a new symbol, if you want to change a chart symbol or something like that.
Yeah, like if I was right here, if I was typing ZX, nothing comes up.
Yeah,
but
right.
If I back off to just the Z, I can see what things do have a Z in them. Okay, but you're not talking about this aspect. I think you're probably talking about, maybe you're talking about, oh, I opened that.
No, I think that was the issue, I think.
Oh, that was the issue. Okay. I thought it was when you...
It wasn't doing that.
This guy, and it brought up that. So, but it's not that.
No, and that doesn't seem right either. That little guy should bring up a DOM, I think, shouldn't it?
What, this?
The one over near the OK button on the chart.
Maybe
That one right there.
Oh, that big one? Yeah. I don't know. Well, when I click the little chain, that takes me to the...
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Option, dealy bob.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, the
so
option.
they got it squared away, or?
Yeah, that's what they said. They got it squared away.
Oh, squared away. Okay. Was it causing us any issues or difficulties? Or?
No, because our charts were all good. And by the time... Oh, wow, it's 12:43.
You got to go? Okay.
No. I just noted John's out there, and
Oh,
I
sorry
thought it
about
was
that, John.
I thought it was like 12:30, and
Okay.
and I looked down. I didn't realize it was this late. But no, it wasn't causing us any problems. We had to change gold this morning. We rolled gold to the Z contract.
Oh, I need to remember that. And also,
Yes.
I attempted to get out the link to everyone who requested to participate in the final week of the beta. I've even got it set up now so that the autoresponder just kicks you out the link. So if you want to participate in the final week of the beta and you haven't got in yet, go to send an email to support@cfrn.net, put the word beta in the subject line. That's it, that's all, nothing more, nothing less, okay? And I'll send you the link and get you going. Okay, John, welcome to the show.
Yep. And let me open up his mic. Yeah. There you go, John. Your mic is open. John.
Yeah, he probably, I don't know how long he was sitting there, but I'll jingle his phone. Oh, I see Dr. Tom. Oh, by the way, guys, we're changing days with Dr. Tom. Dr. Tom is going to be with us on Thursdays now instead of Mondays. In fact, I need to respond to him right here and say, yes, correct. Okay. That works better for his schedule. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to call John and let him know that we fired up his microphone. Okay. Dr. Tom just texted and said to tell all of you that he'll see you Thursday.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm jingling John's phone, and then I'm just going to dive into... Hey, John, just let you know your mic's open. Whatever you're ready. Okay. Okay, so he knows his mic's open. All right, let me get over here to these Concierge Trade Alerts from last night. And let's see, just... Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Hello there. How you doing?
Good. Did you have a nice weekend?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Lewis Hamilton did a fantastic job at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Won by the biggest margin this season, and did an incredible drive. This guy is amazing. His record of winning, for the number of races he's been in, which is about 220, or maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's got more wins percentage-wise than just about anybody in the world. Especially if for anybody who's been in more than 100 races, he's got the highest percentage of wins and poles in history.
And how many years?
He's been at it about 10, I guess. Maybe a bit more, about 15, probably 15.
Does that record cover all motorsports or just?
He pretty much, he's hard to beat. I mean, look, Schumacher's the best. He won more, but he's ahead of Schumacher in terms of ratio of wins to actual races right now. And if he keeps going, if he wins a few more races this season, he'll be pretty hard to beat. And he's only about 20. He's maybe about 20 races behind, or maybe a little bit more, maybe 25 races. Sorry, wins behind Schumacher. If he drives for another 3 years and he gets 25 wins, he'll be the time greatest of all. In terms of wins, but he's got to win a few more championships to be the greatest in that respect. But when you take all the statistics, he's hard to beat. And
Does he make? Do you think a guy like him makes more money from racing or from endorsements?
Both. He's just signed. I think he just signed a $200 million deal with Mercedes. Well, maybe it was 120. Could go up to 200, something like that. So he's about the highest paid sportsman in the UK, I think, right now, and maybe in the world.
Wow.
But
yeah, that's a great question. highest paid athlete in the world. Let's see what Google tells me. It looks like Floyd Mayweather is on top, 285 million.
Yeah, probably is,
And
the box.
Lionel Messi, who you probably know and I don't.
Yeah,
111 million.
I think he's bigger than Messi right now, Hamilton.
Number 3, Cristiano Ronaldo, soccer. Oh, you know what? This list is jumbled up. And this is a Forbes list, and I don't know what year this was compiled. It doesn't have a date stamp to tell us.
Yeah, he's
arts guy.
Yeah, he's the guy who fought Mayweather a while back.
Okay, yeah. And who else tops this? Oh, my little slideshow stopped. Oh well, at least we know who the top guys are. I just wanted to see if your guy sounds like he should have been on the list.
Maybe because he hadn't got a contract signed. Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, I got a better list now. Okay. Neymar. LeBron James is coming at number 6. Boy, I would have thought he'd have been at the top. Roger Federer, Stephen Curry, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford. Boy, that's I don't know what message we send to our kids. Well, this is not a time to talk about overpaid sports players. And who am I to say that they're overpaid? I mean, they're the best at what they do. So, they're just charging what the market will bear. So, there isn't anything wrong with that. I'm just trying to find your guy. And oh, here we go. Lewis Hamilton. He's at number 12. Okay.
How much?
His lifetime earnings. Well, it says under pay. That's kind of weird the way they did this. Under pay, it says 51 million, and then under the column salary / winnings, it says 42 million, and then under the endorsements column, it says 9 million. So 51 million, 42 million, 9 million. So he's doing okay. If he doesn't win any more races, he'll be fine. But he looks from the picture here, he's a relatively young man.
Yep. When we started seeing the sell-off on Friday, what stood out to me, it if you remember just exactly 24 trading hours ago, we we were looking at a sudden, very sharp sell-off developing, right? And the speed and intensity of that sell-off bothered me. Well, if you remember, it kind of got a bit scary. I think it went down to minus 130 on the Nasdaq, and then it sort of rallied back. And I noticed that we kind of put in a 3-wave correction, an upward correction in the Nasdaq, and a downward correction in the VIXs, and it just seemed like we were going to go higher. Just 1 second.
Guys, we were talking about this last week. Concierge Trade Alert for the NQ said to consider selling the NQ at 72.57. Concierge Trade Alert. So 72.57 if the opportunity presents. Okay. John, I take it you are on the phone. Okay, I just want to make sure. All right.
Hello, sorry.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Just got a call I didn't recognize. Somebody from eBay calling about something. So So I just actually put a buy in on the NASDAQ a minute ago at about 7169, and we are rallying here. So it's a little bit like, you know, last Friday we started rallying after a kind of a severe sell-off. You know, actually, come to think of it.
What time frame are you showing your rally in?
Well, we just
I see a little bit of a bounce here.
yeah, it's bounced about 10 points so far, which isn't bad.
Okay.
Whether it's going to hold on, I don't know. But you know, it could be a three waiver. If we hold here and start to rally into the afternoon, that would be good. You know, it'd be definitely because we could be on a three waiver of a pullback. You know, the funny thing is about this 4.1%, which for a change received saturation media over the weekend, and deservedly so. The big catch is, even though we're in this sort of reactive sell-off right now, it could easily change. You know, you got the Fed coming up the next couple of days. You've got, you know, the bonds actually just started rallying right now off of 142. They've been down here before. They don't seem to like this down in the low 140s. I think there's some of the bond sell-off is due to Putin. You know, Russia push. I mean, if Russia sold $1 trillion worth of bonds in the last few months, and it only pushed the bond market down 5 or 10 points, you know, we ought to be celebrating, because that's an incredible ability to absorb a big sell-off, and not particularly damaging to the U.S. in any way, shape, or form. You know, if we can borrow $1 billion from another country and they sell it back to us and we can absorb it that easily, we ought to be pretty happy about things. The Chinese, you know, while they've got a lot, I don't know whether they can actually sell at the same rate. I think there might be some restrictions on what they have, but nevertheless, you know, we must have an incredibly liquid and very resilient bond market to be able to handle that kind of onslaught. So, you know, if that's the case, you know, we could go. It's almost like we could almost get through Armageddon without too much damage, you know, because there aren't that. I mean, apart from China and Russia and maybe Japan, you know, there aren't any large holders in the trillions, you know, that can really hurt us that badly in terms of, you know, pushing rates up, you know, like 1979 or something. So I think that's a pretty good thing to keep in mind. Look, you know, one of the reasons I'm looking for a rally this afternoon is because if we do rally, you know, coming in Tuesday, we could have a bit of a turnaround tomorrow ahead of the Fed, maybe position the market for a rebound on the Fed news on Wednesday. The scary part is, you know, stocks have given up some. I mean, first of all, what I was saying on Friday about the end of the month syndrome, and how we were, you know, we're going to, unless we have some kind of a miracle rebound tomorrow, the monthlies, the weeklies are not going to look very good on the chart. In fact, they look pretty bad. They look dreadful. And they do portend lower prices. But given we've got other things this week as well. We've got the employment. Just a second. We got the employment coming in. You know, remember on Wednesday we're probably going to get a preview of that. With the economy growing 4.1%, you know, the employment could be. I don't think it is going to be, but it could be as high as 400,000, which would be huge if that's the case. There's an outside chance it will be, but as I say, there's a very good chance it's going to be over 300,000 for the end of July. So, or in that high 250s to 300, I would think. So so the point is, if this is, if we've had a sharp 2 or 3 day sell-off, and then the market goes back up because we're growing at 4.1%, that would be pretty impressive. When we did 4.1% in 2014, we remember the market kept going for another year before it cracked. It wasn't until August the 24th, 2015, that the market broke. Remember that. So even though this looks bad, it looks, Facebook cracking and Twitter getting hammered and all this doesn't look very good. It's probably not that big of a deal. Whether Facebook goes down another $50 or even $100, or even it just turns around here, it could actually defy the odds and actually get back towards the highs quicker than you might think. There's they come out with some look, they've got an incredible platform, this Facebook, and they've got so many divisions that are doing well. That they're just going to keep on making more money, and the stock price will probably recover. This is a little bit like Apple. Apple had a really bad correction a few years ago, came way back down, and proceeded to go to where it is today. So I think that I think it was up in the 130s. It went down to 90 or something like that, and then, or even 85, and now it's more than double the price. So Facebook, this is probably a temporary setback, but it's very interesting to note that look, the other thing is the dollar is finally cracking today, and we talked about that last week. It's a very difficult top to read on the dollar, but the currencies are definitely off their lows, and I'm telling you, there is just a massive weekly buy signal on all the currencies, and there's a massive weekly sell signal developing on the dollar, and the kind of thing that could really push this dollar down very dramatically. And you know what? That's the absolute best thing that could happen right now, because if the dollar goes down, it's going to be more inflationary. And if when you get in, the perfect scenario is when you get a bit of inflation added into the economy, it actually increases the GDP. So the sustainability of this GDP that was a big lot of talk about at the weekend is, I mean, look, you got a Treasury Secretary and some of even the Fed. I mean, look, the Fed chief came out a week ago and said, growth as far as the eye can see. I mean, when have you ever heard the Fed say that before? I mean, like years. And now you've got Mnuchin. I mean, Mnuchin's probably the smartest Treasury Secretary we've ever had. I mean, he's the richest made. He knows what he's doing, and he was talking yesterday on, talking about 4 or 5 years of growth from here. Certainly it fits with what we've been saying on this show, which is we've got a good 3 to 4 years, possibly to take us to 21, 22, all the way to that level. So it's worth noting that what I'm getting at is this is a little bit like 1999, when the market had some setbacks like this that were scary, and then the market just went higher again, and continued to do that all year. And in the process, the NASDAQ went up 100% in that year. So this is kind of a blip on the radar, really. It feels bad. The stocks look bad, and the fact that we've given up this ground as quickly as we have is a little bit unsettling. But if we start to recover here in the next day or two, you could be looking at a huge rebound on some news or other. It could be on the employment, it could be on the Fed, it could be on a number of things here later this week, it could be on Apple's earnings. Every time Apple's come out, you sort of think they can't possibly beat this time, you know. And the last few times they've beaten handily, and they've tended to rally the market towards the end of the earnings cycle. So that's going to be a critical factor this week, along with and look, most of the earnings have blown away results. Pretty, you know, there's much, almost, you know, there's I don't know what the percentages are, but they're pretty high of companies that are beating. So you know, this is a little bit of a kind of a rattle. If it starts recovering from here, it could, you know, it could extend this rally quite considerably. And, you know, I think if the next, if we were to come out, if we come in around, first of all, I think this number is going to be upgraded in the next revision. Could be upgraded a couple of times. We could end up doing about 4.5% for the quarter. You can get another, I mean, if we get 3 quarters of plus 4%, that would be a phenomenal accomplishment. But I wouldn't rule out, I'm not going to change our view, because look, the market's beaten us. We thought we'd do 3% in the second quarter, 4% in the third, 5% in the fourth. If we end up doing 4% or 5% in the fourth, or 5% and 6%, that will really be something. And I think if the dollar breaks enough into the rest of the year, that could be very, very positive for the GDP. Now, one of the things, apparently, even though we got to 4.1%, apparently because of a lack of inventory or something, they actually took about percentage point off the GDP. So imagine if that had been in there, we would have done 5.1%.
Yeah, they took it off for what reason? What was it?
I don't know exactly, because the inventory levels are very low or something. They didn't restock inventory. And all this stuff about people buying ahead of the tariffs. Most people didn't even know the tariffs were coming. This is a lot of nonsense, you know, being put out there. So but the dollar, a weaker dollar, will absolutely, look, it's not only going to spur growth, it's going to spur exports. It's going to improve the deficit, and it's to improve stock prices, because a weaker dollar, it means higher stock prices. And that's a really big deal, because if we do go down by 50% in the dollar over the next few years, conceivably, you know, the stock market couldn't just hit 30,000, it could hit 40,000. And that would be, you know, that would be really bullish for the US. It would be nirvana. We would have, if you think it's good today, you've seen nothing yet. And that could really happen. In fact, I think it's going to happen, because a weaker dollar, look, a weaker dollar is just going to be like an engine to the world, because by the way, you know, the Indian stock market, the Indian rupee, we mentioned it on this show about a month or two ago, was making new all-time lows. Mm-hmm. And guess what? The Indian market just hit new all-time highs last night. So yeah, it really did. So that's very bullish for India. You know, you remember you got 1 point. It's going to be the biggest country in the world soon. It's going to overtake China.
What's the symbol for India? You got anything?
The what?
Any kind of a symbol that you track India with?
I think it's called the Nifty 50 in India, something like that.
Oh, I have heard of that. Nifty 50. Yeah, it's the Indian flag. Okay. I heard of it, but I did not know. I just never looked into it. Wow. Okay, this is on the daily chart. And it's been climbing. Well, it looks like it started this advance in 2017. Had a pretty good pullback, and this year, but boy, it's just marching right on up there. Now,
hang on, let me have a look at that. Yeah, oh yeah, wow, that's awesome. Well, I think it's very good that the Indian market is making new highs, because it shows you what could happen to the U.S. market. And actually, the Indian market is a lot like the Nasdaq in a way, or or maybe the mid caps, because you know, the U.S. market sort of bottomed around the same time. In fact, the Indian market's probably outperforming in terms of the way it went to a new high. It actually looks like it's going to go a lot higher. You know, and so that means that Indian, and remember, Modi has done a lot of very drastic changes to the Indian economy. So if this is what they're getting, you know, having done that, it bodes very, very well, because he's cut out a lot of corruption, tax evasion, all kinds of stuff. And and I would say the Indian economy is, you know, right on track. And remember, this is one of the economies that's growing at about 4-6%, up there with China. And that's you know, what I'm trying to say is that all these current countries, many of them have 20 or 30 of them have currencies being decimated, including India. And yet look at their market. What does that tell you? It tells you that if the dollar goes down in value over the next few years, it's going to cause a boom in the world, because the other countries feel richer. And they're going to have more spending power, and that's going to improve our deficit, because they're going to be buying more stuff from the U.S.
Look at this monthly chart. It reaches back to 1991.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive, actually. Pretty impressive chart altogether. So, and it really looks good. And the Chinese markets, you know, they haven't given up much ground here, trying to get off this three-wave low. If we can recover, actually we are recovering right now already. We can recover. I think this market's gonna rebound actually now. And if we can start hitting, if we start hitting new highs in August, could be very, very bullish for this market. By the way,
you see it's trying to turn right here. I mean, you see the wick. I don't know if you've got my chart up or not, but this is what the beginning of a turn can look like, guys. Now you see right here. You see this wick. Okay, was that a reversal? No, it was the beginning of the retracement, though. It had tried, it failed. Then you came back to challenge these highs. And then we ultimately put in a lower low here and a lower low here. But once again, these wicks just show you that the market is able to turn itself around. It doesn't mean it's going to succeed, but usually with an attempt, those of you who are in search of your daily goal, give that some thought. So go ahead, John. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, no, this is quite a, you know, when the market gets really, it kind of does, it's exactly the same as Friday. Remember, we were down 130, and now we're only down 100 on the NASDAQ. And so it really does look like we might rebound here. You know, being down, in other words, not going worse than 130 is kind of a positive thing, really, given how bad of a shellacking we've had. And the fact that we, you know, think about it, we came down 130 on Friday, rallied a bit more this morning before they slammed it, down another 130. Look, feels to me like a three-wave. In other words, this is a reaction to the huge number, you know, overwhelming number of GDP. Now things stabilize, and now the market starts to respond to the new world of 4.1% growth, and that's bullish for stocks. Like I say, it's, if you go back to 2014, we actually had 2 quarters in a row that hit that hit 4%, and after that it fell off a cliff. But I think that, and remember, the market didn't top out for another year. Some stocks did start to top out in 2014, but we didn't, you know, we didn't have that 1,000-point decline until August 24th, 2015. It started, you know, from about June, July, August of 2015. That's when we started having problems. But that was a year after the 4.1 or 4% print. Think about that.
Well, I know they sure played a lot of clips over the weekend of Trump talking about, in his campaign, talking about a 4% GDP. And they also played clips of all the economists saying why that was impossible and why that,
Yeah. And I mean, look, kudos to him, especially with Krugman. I mean, Krugman, not everything Krugman says is wrong. He was right. Well, if Krugman was right in one thing, and he said we should have done we said it on the show, we should have done $1.5 trillion stimulus in 2009 instead of the 743 billion. If we'd done twice as much, I remember, I think I even quoted on the show, there was a Bernanke sort of back in history and summarized all the previous bottoms and, how it was tough to get off the bottom and get the economy going. And you know what he kind of quipped, he said, they never, if you could summarize the mistakes that all the feds made over the years, they never did enough, and thank God they did enough to get us off, out of the abyss. But if they'd done, can you imagine if they'd done $1.5 trillion, it might have been a whole different recovery for Obama, and a whole lot of people would have done a whole lot better, and he might not have Trump in the White House today. Could have been a whole different story. But they didn't do enough, and these are the consequences. So, but another thing that I wish I could be the earpiece in some of these commentators' ears, because they fail to ram to clinch the point home. The numbers are in, but they're not kind of computed yet. So the debt has gone up because of this tax, because the tax thing had to be paid for. But the good thing has happened. The trade deficit's already dropped 52 billion. That's a big deal. But what nobody said, which, they said, oh, they're attacking, they got you. Oh, the deficit's blown up by another $1 trillion. That wasn't entirely Trump's fault. There were a lot of stuff in there, in budgets and stuff that was already in place that were kind of irreversible. So a good bit of that blowout is because of that. But look, who cares? If we've got $21 trillion worth of debt and we got a 21 trillion economy, that's not a bad place to be. And and another thing is, we're not 7 trillion up. We're back to 12 trillion up, based on where the market is today. Remember, the Nasdaq's higher and much more valuable than it was back in January, right? The S&P is almost at a double top. Only the Dow is off, a little bit. But remember all the components, the property, they're not taking into account the property, the cryptos, and all the wealth that's created. If you add them all together, it comes to about 12 trillion. So, I mean, we've had a staggering increase in value, in net worth in 2 years, in 1.5 years of 12 trillion dollars. Now, what they failed to mention is, remember April? See, I think the other months have still got to come in, but remember we had the all-time record revenues of $500 billion in April. Imagine if Kudlow had been sitting there and he'd said what we just said just now, and the guy snaps at him, well, he blew out $1 trillion. He says, but we made $500 billion in 1 month. How about that? They didn't kind of get the point across, and the subsequent months. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the year shapes up in terms of government revenues. Because there could be a shocker, but maybe by April of next year, it could be a sudden drop of $500 billion in the deficit in just overnight. And because when you sort of get ahead of the curve and you start to hit that inflection point where you start to pay off the debt, the effects of it can be quite palpable. And nobody, back in the 90s, when Clinton shut down a lot of bases and things and cut a lot of government spending, it actually had an incredible effect. And they did pay down a lot of the debt, and as we rallied into the 2000s, you know, the budget was getting more and more balanced, and nobody could see it coming, you know, and we kept on going on about it, how powerful this trend was, and the same thing could happen again. I mean, remember, we've been twice before at this level of 100% plus debt to GDP, and we got back to, you know, almost, you know, negligible levels. So to say that it can't happen again is you know, especially with, I mean, look, Mr. Criticism himself, Larry Summers, you know, who's out there bashing everybody, saying because he's being shown up because he said this could never happen, and now it's happening. But, you know, if you go back 10 years and listen to what he was saying, you know, what the effects of not 1% of growth, but 0.2% of growth or 0.3% of growth, he was sort of extrapolating this out to 2040 and saying that it could potentially pay off the debt by 2040, just that amount of an increase. Well, if we've doubled the growth, you know, from 2% to 4%, can you imagine what kind of an impact that's going to have if we can sustain it?
Yeah.
That's what people are not getting right now. They're not getting that point.
What's the highest GDP the U.S. has ever had? Do you know?
About 25% in World War II. It got up in about 1944. You know, don't forget, the economy wasn't kind of as broad-based and sophisticated as it is today, and diversified. You know, the war economy was all about tanks and munitions, and you know, it was, I mean, when we were building a Liberty ship every 3 days and 17 hours. Think about that. We were building a Liberty ship every 3 days, 17 hours, and we were building 10,000 planes a month. That's when the growth was 25%.
Wow, those are staggering numbers. They really are.
Well, that's why we won the war, you know, because we had the manufacturing power that nobody else had, and that's why when the Japanese surrendered, remember Hirohito said, we have awakened a sleeping giant.
Yeah, you know, have you ever heard the story about the mistranslation? I saw an article this weekend. It was about how there have been important moments in time where something got mistranslated. The president of the U.S. had sent a message to Japan's leader 2 days before Hiroshima, or a day before, and the answer from Japan came back. It was supposed to say no comment, need a couple of days to put things in place, something of that effect. I'm trying to find the article. But the translation that the U.S. president got was that there was a hostile reply or something. So the conspiracy, the argument goes, translations in history. I don't know if that's going to bring it up. It was on Business Insider that I saw it. No, I'll have to do some. But there were a number of instances where the translation. I mean, have you ever? Maybe you've been somewhere before, and you had to use a translator, and you were suspicious that they might not be saying exactly what you were telling them to say. I've encountered that on a number of occasions. But now you can put an app on your phone that, I mean, you can just, you talk and your phone talks Spanish, you know, Russian, Chinese. I mean, that's in the Bible. The Tower of Babel, as the story goes, is that, you know, they were trying to build this tower to the heavens, and because God did not want that, he sent an angel down, or however he did it, and he confused their languages, I believe is how it's written. So you have everybody speaking one language, and then all of a sudden there's all these different languages. So I would have to go back. I'd have to go look up the scripture. If someone wants to and quote it accurately, you can. The point being is that was like a major turning point in human history. All right, however that happened, however it is that we ended up speaking different languages. So now there's an app, probably free. I don't know. No, you probably have to pay for this app, a couple bucks. You put it on your phone. You can go anywhere in the world. There's literally no one that you cannot communicate with because of a little app on a phone that didn't exist. I don't know, 15 years ago. How long is the iPhone been out? What was it? 2007, 2006.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You know, when you see, you know, you go back. Imagine going back in time to sort of World War II with this kind of technology, and you know, and sort of showing it to people back then. And it's always like, you know, when you see Hamilton winning the Grand Prix in a Mercedes, you know, driving a Mercedes car, with this link between the Brits and the Germans, you know, and how they embrace each other today compared to, you know, I mean, remember in our childhood, the Germans were much still the, you know, the enemy with all the comics and everything and things that you were reading as kids. They were still the villains, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in the movies, you know. And it's amazing how the world has changed. And this stuff today, I mean, you know, we ain't seen nothing yet. There's some stuff coming down. There's more. There's, you know, more flying vehicles coming thick and fast. More and more. There's jetpacks is definitely going to be a reality very soon, and now they got some interesting watercraft. You know, they've got all kinds of hydrofoils and things that are, you know, making it. They got a hydrofoil bike. You can actually ride a bike on the water. It's great.
Right. Did you say ride a bike on the water?
Yeah. I think it's called.
Are you talking about like a jet ski or something? Or?
It's not quite. It's not quite as you know, pedal power. You can't probably get off on the foil, but I think it's called aquabike. It's kind of intriguing, you know.
Aquabike. I've not heard of that. Let's see what we got. This guy, the Tropical Resort Aquacycle.
No, it's not that. No, it's not that. No, it's more cool. It's cooler than that.
cooler than that. Yeah. Okay. I did find this article. I'll try to shorten it up here just a couple paragraphs. The story is as follows. In July 1945, the Allied countries meeting in Poznań submitted a harshly worded declaration of surrender terms. After their terms were translated from English into Japanese, they waited anxiously for the Japanese reply from the Japanese Prime Minister, Kentaro Suzuki. The ultimatum demanded the unconditional surrender of Japan. The terms included a statement to the effect that any negative answer from Japan would invite prompt and utter destruction. Meanwhile, newspaper reporters pressed the Prime Minister in Tokyo to say something about Japan's decision. No formal decision had been reached, and therefore Suzuki, falling back on the politician's old standby answer to reporters, replied that he was withholding comment. The Japanese Prime Minister stated he refrained from comments at the moment. Mokusatsu was the key word to express his idea, a word that can be interpreted in several different ways, but that is derived from the Japanese term for silence. As can be seen from the dictionary entry, the word can have quite a few different meanings. Media agencies and translators interpreted the word as treat with silent contempt. And the Americans understood that there would never be a diplomatic end to the war and were naturally annoyed by what they considered the arrogant tone used in the Japanese translation. And then came Hiroshima. 10 days later, the atomic bomb was launched on Hiroshima 10 days later. A translation error that killed more than 70,000 people instantaneously and some 100,000 as a result of the destruction and radiation. Now, this isn't the article I read over the weekend. The article I read over the weekend had a number of examples like this, and boy, you know, be careful what you say. You know, and whenever you visit a foreign country, there's always, you know, customs that you would not think of. In Japan, it's disrespectful to show somebody the sole of your shoe, the sole of your foot. Right? Who knows? There's so much that you culturally so much cultural diversity as you move from country to country. And I'm trying to think I guess they called it, when I was in the Navy, they warned us as we were getting ready to go on a cruise, culture shock. They were talking about culture shock, and not a term I had ever heard or dealt with. Country boy growing up in Georgia, but I soon found out. Anyway, I know that's down sort of a rabbit trail, but I found it very fascinating that, you know, if this is true, you know, and it's documented in a number of places, a lot of people believe this to be true. If it is true, I don't know. I don't even know what to say, you know. And I wish I could remember some of the other examples that they gave of poor translations, you know, having pretty horrible results. All right. Have we talked about crude yet?
No, but it is up today. You know, there was a drawdown last week, and so there's continuing kind of a, you know, support coming from that. I would say if, you know, we're back over 70, that's not a bad place to be. And the products continue to be quite well bid here. So I'd say, you know, tomorrow and Wednesday, the numbers, if they're a drawdown, if there's another drawdown, then, you know, there could be some more. Remember, we're still kind of in the holiday driving season. And we're using more gasoline than ever in history, pretty much these days. So it's, you know, these prices are being kept pretty strong. So
last night on the Concierge Trade Alert, the email we sent out said to consider buying 69.15, and that opportunity presented itself right after the London Open. And so from 69.15 up to 70.15, guys, 70.15. That's $1,000 per contract traded.
Mm-hmm. Not bad. Same. We had a similar. So yeah, we had a similar entry point as yourself last night.
Yeah, what a beautiful move. Ran right up there. $1,000 per contract. Yep.
Yeah, this market really it's had quite a dramatic rebound since we put in that buy near the lows about almost an hour ago now, 3/4 of an hour ago. So this is actually turning out to be a pretty good recovery, and it might nip this decline in the bud, because if we actually get a reversal, if we probably a bit of a miracle to get back positive today, but if we get on the way to getting back positive, that would be if we do get positive, I think it would be incredible. There'll probably be a very big rebound off this pullback. But we are only a few points away from, actually we were positive just a while back on the mid cap. So the mid cap is doing the same thing again. You know, it went from being a dog to you know, recovering. So I'd say if the mid cap goes positive today, that will be a very good sign. The Dow could go positive today as well, and maybe even the S&P.
Currently, the Dow's down 72, Nasdaq's down 94, S&P's down 12, and the Russell's down 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the reasons the Dow is down is because Boeing, which was actually when it wasn't looking too bad at the beginning of the day, suddenly took a bit of a hit. But it's coming back, and I was listening to a roundup of the orders they got at the Farnborough Air Show. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing. They certainly got orders in the hundreds of billions cumulatively. in terms of new planes.
What was the number again?
I was probably somewhere between 100 and 200 billion, probably maybe around 150. You add all the orders up, came to something in that order, something in that. I mean, Boeing's order book is so full. It's on, you know, they've got planes. They've got so much business to produce in planes today, and the planes are getting better and better. I mean, they're getting, you know, even the 380, the Airbus 380. They were talking about bringing out a 380 plus aircraft that can carry more weight, more passengers, and can save about 15% in, you know, improve 15% improvement in economics. That's pretty staggering for a plane of that size.
Yeah, that is. That really is. You know, speaking of planes, they're still building. Trump's building fighter jets right now. Is he not? Or having them built. Do you think we'll ever see a war again where fighter jets are used?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, at least for the.
I mean, I think about the old World War II dogfights, they called them. You know, when you've got a guy in a bunker in the Nevada desert, flying a drone in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever the case might be. I mean, why would we put a pilot in harm's way? I guess if we don't have to.
Well, I mean, you saw the last attack on Syria was done without going into Syrian airspace, and it was pretty much done remotely, for several hundred miles away. And if they had to go into Iran, you could conceivably do the same thing. I mean, this is drastic. It's sort of a radical change. It's not like going down into Baghdad like they did in the Gulf War anymore. You know, they've shown how you can conduct a war today, or at least, you know, knock off targets from, you know, without having to ever get into harm's way. So that's a huge deal. Might not be quite the case with the B-2s, you know, which have a different kind of armament. They might have to still go overhead, but from such a high level that maybe they're not so vulnerable at the sort of stratospheric heights. But I would say more and more this remote, you know, look, we haven't had a kind of an air-to-air combat war since Vietnam. You know, because really there hasn't been any competition in any war since. You know, most of the planes in Iraq were taken out in the airfield before they ever took off. Remember?
And now, where did this happen?
No, I'm saying that there hasn't been combat. You know, air-to-air combat.
Since when?
Probably Vietnam.
Okay, all right. So there was air-to-air combat in Vietnam. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you remember Bosnia? It was all. I mean, there were no opposing fighter aircraft of any. There haven't been any opposing fighter aircraft really, apart from the odd skirmish here and there. Just in any conflict that we've had since. No, I mean, even the Gulf War, there was no competition. There was no real, you know, maybe a couple of. I think some Iraqi planes got shut down from brief air-to-air combat, but nothing. Nothing like World War II, where you had, you know, mass encounters in air-to-air combat. But we got the planes to handle it today. You know, this F-35 is supposed to be pretty much invincible, but it's going to be interesting if we ever have a scenario as to how these planes really will work in the real world. You know.
Right. On those none, have you rolled forward?
Have I what?
Have you rolled?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. Yeah. As a matter of fact, on the FinViz charts, they rolled forward last night. So you actually have an upside gap of about $10 in the gold. That's the premium in the December gold over the August, which is quite a good sign. As far as the gold is concerned, unfortunately, the gold stock's not acting too well today. The majors still under a bit of pressure. I think the Fed and the employment are potentially could weigh on gold a bit this week. I have a feeling they're going to come down and test the lows one more time, and then I think we're going to turn after that. And I mean, in fact, today, the dollar is down pretty sharply, and gold is not up. It's up off the lows, but it's not up that much. So I wouldn't be too, sometimes you see this happen, and then a few days later, gold suddenly takes off and makes up for the dollar being down. But I think if the dollar breaks 94 and breaks it not meaningfully and gets down into the mid 93s, I think then you're going to suddenly see gold start to get a lot stronger. So, but on the upside, I'd say 35 on the platinum, 1235 on the gold, on December gold, and silver up around 1560. If they start breaking up through those levels, I think there could be an acceleration to the upside. Incidentally, the lumber broke down this morning and it went beyond the limit. I don't know where the limit is right now. It was 15 up until Friday, and it is actually showing down 22 today at one stage. It's only down 17 right now. So the spot month, sometimes the spot month doesn't have a limit. So it could be the reason why it's gone down more than the limit. But that might be the biggest loss that lumber's ever had in a day. I don't think I've ever seen lumber down 22 before in its entire history.
So, with lumber being so cheap, I don't know, somehow that has to speak ill of something that's going on that hasn't really shown itself yet. I saw an article last night, and I know if you look at the internet, one page is for it and the next is against it. I mean, it can be a bit disconcerting. So you got to decide who you're going to give ear to, who you're going to listen to. But this article that I have in my feed, it said that real estate's getting ready to get whacked again.
Well, look, it's going through a bit of a pullback. The high end is always the first to go, and the New York high end, almost the world high end market has been suffering for a couple of years now, for a few years. London, houses been marked down by a third, even a half. But they're probably too expensive to start with. I mean, if you get a house marked down from 40 million to 20 million, it probably shouldn't have been a 40 million in the first place, Mm-hmm. So, because, I look at these new skyscrapers in New York, the ones that look very thin, honest to God, they look very vulnerable, these to falling over, to be honest with you. They obviously got a lot of steel and stuff in them, but they don't look like, the World Trade Center tower. They don't look like the Empire State Building. These new, where they sell the whole floor as a house kind of thing, and it's all got windows around. It looks great, but they look very thin. Those there's a few of them in New York that sort of stand out.
I've got some pictures up here. I don't know. Now these are not newer buildings. That one could be. That one looks pretty thin there.
Yeah. Well, you see that one that said.
We're here. Go ahead.
They'll go back to, oh, you see there, you can see the one to the left of the Empire. That's the one I'm talking about.
This one?
This one here. You see what I mean about it being kind of, I mean, you can imagine, God forbid if something were to hit that thing and it would just fall over, you know what I mean? That's a,
so the One World Trade Center, that's 1,776 feet tall. Upon completion, okay, so this is old. This is an old article. They're talking about completion. Well, it says it was updated 2018. Okay. Central Park Tower under construction, 1,500 feet. 87. Oh, that they haven't even started on that one, I guess. Under construction. Wow. That's now. What is it that's unique about these buildings that is different structurally? What is it that you are referring to? John, did I lose you? I lost you. Oh, that's pretty thin. I think we lost him. We did. Okay, let's recap real quick. S&P 500 Emini Futures. Consider selling 2807. 2807. We've dropped 8 3/4 points so far. Now the swing low here was 2806.50. Okay, so you got to do this over important prices, important areas are almost always tested. And so 2806.50, and the alerts went out at 6:25 Eastern. So on this one here, okay, this would, if you triggered in, you stopped out. And on this one, the market made 8 3/4 points available so far. Again, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. And so we're back up to 2807. Actually, we hit 2807 1/4. All right, so is this but another test? Time will tell. It did make it above the trigger by 1 tick. On the Dow, we said to consider buying 25,475 in last night's email. Price ran right up and knocked on the door at 25,475, but not a tick above. On the reverse, we said if the opportunity presents to consider selling 25,335, and we had a 40-point drop. Price is now back above the trigger, and it's running up against the resistance created. What was once support often will become resistance, and that's what we may be up against right here. A move back below the trigger, well, that should open the opportunity for an additional trade. And as to the long side, well, there it is. The Russell, consider selling 1656. We dropped to we 5 ticks below the trigger, and so if you were triggered in there, that will also result in a stop out. And on the long side, no two-sided action yet. Last night's email said to consider being long 69.15. That happened right after the it happened shortly after the London Open, 3 a.m. Eastern. And it did $1,000 per contract, and we got a little pullback, and it continued on and actually put in a high at 70.43. In crude, when price goes from $69 to $70, that's referred to as 1 point, and it pays $1,000 per contract. Now, crude pays $10 a tick. Gold pays $10 a tick. However, when gold makes a $1 move, that's only $100 per contract. The difference is, in gold there's 10 ticks to a point. In crude there's 100 ticks to a point. So again, if crude goes from $69 to $70, it's 100 ticks at $10 per tick. It's $1,000 per contract traded. Okay. Bonds. This is a daily, so we'll switch that out. Okay. Now, hey, we need to check volume here. 2,776 in the last 30 minutes. Okay. Fair enough. So on bonds, consider selling 142.15. This is why I always say, if you want to trade bonds, give it a second thought. 31.25 per tick, 32 ticks to a point, $1,000 per point. If bonds go from 142 to 143, that's 32 ticks, 31.75 per tick, $1,000 per contract. Okay. Here is just well, this first little drop took us down all at 2 ticks, and then this pullback, because it's 31.25 per tick, you don't have a lot of room for your risk management. And so I continue to publish the bonds because we have people that trade bonds. But my advice, especially if you're, relatively new to this business of trading, focus on something else. Not that you can't learn to trade bonds. Certainly you can. Many people have. But give it a while. All right. I can only qualify this as a stop out down here. Nothing more than that. And for any two-sided action, we'd have to see this thing all the way up at 143.04. And there is the Globex Open. Right there. Right there. Bonds. Okay, all right. NQ. Last night, the email said to consider selling 72.57. Okay. This little head fake here was worth a stop out. Okay. This move here turned into 90 points, and the NQ pays $20 per point. So that would be $1,800 per contract traded. Okay. We never get out at the swing high or swing low for a good reason. We teach you to trail a stop, and so if you trail a stop the way that we teach you, you'll always leave a little something on the table. Okay. Gold, consider selling 12.20. It dropped a whopping almost 2 points, 1.9. And the email said to consider buying 12.24 if the opportunity presented itself, and it has not. It has not. And crude, we already did crude. Yes. So there's the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the crude, the bonds, the gold. What we don't have up are soybeans. But we can fix that. ZS X8 soybeans. Remember now, the alert last night on gold was for the Q contract. Beginning today, everything will be for the Z contract. So December gold. Okay. Okey-doke. All right, and soybeans, consider being long 891. The issue we had with soybeans is they gapped open. Okay, we emailed out the Concierge Trade Alerts. The other markets open at 6 p.m. Eastern. Soybeans do not open until 8 p.m. Eastern. And when they opened, you can see that the opening price was $8.94 and a quarter. So basically they jumped over. $8.91. Now it did come back to hit $8.91. Our intent originally in the email was to be long $8.91, and price did run up to $8.96. And so, you know, had things gone according to plan, it would have made for a nice trading opportunity. Now, important prices in important areas are, of course, almost always tested. So price gets back below the trigger, and it takes another run. It's taken a couple of attempts. The one that stands out would be this one, 8.95 and a quarter. So that's 4 1/4 points. Now, soybeans pay $50 per point. There's 4 ticks to a point, $12.50 per tick. So these pay exactly the same as the S&P 500. Okay. So S&P, Dow, Russell, gold, crude, NASDAQ. That's everything. That's everything. Time to take a look at our good word for the day. The steps to success. Psalm 37:23. He will make certain each step you take is sure. Psalm 37:23. He will make certain each step you take is sure. To succeed in life, you need 4 things. Now, I just got to get your attention. This great mystery we call life. Some guy on the radio is going to sum it all up and give you the key to success in 4 easy steps. And you don't even have to send your money before midnight tonight, because I'm just going to give it to you. Number 1, 4 rungs on the ladder to success. Rung number 1, morals. What are you willing to compromise to get where you're trying to go? You can't get there any old way you like. You must have boundaries. Yes, we've all broken the rules at some time or other, but thank God we had rules to break. We were able to realign ourselves because somebody had pitched a tent on where right is. Today, people don't seem to know or care much about that. Rung number 2 on the ladder to success. Methods. First it was morals, now it's methods. A goal without a plan is like a road to nowhere. First the goal, then the plan, then the process. Adapting this simple 3-step formula helps you understand that you won't just leap into success. There are methods that you must employ and stay with. Number 3, means. Morals, methods, and now means. When God gives you the vision, He also gives you the provision. When that doesn't happen, either the timing is not right or what you want differs from what He has in mind for you. God's provision can come as an idea that hits you suddenly, or a thought that takes root and just kind of grows over time. And His provision involves help from other people. So walk in love wherever you go. That's so important. Whenever God blesses you, whether it's financially or it's almost always going to come through the hands of another person, right? Duffel bags of, if it's a financial issue, duffel bags of cash tend not to fall out of the sky unless you're D.B. Cooper, okay? It's got to come from somewhere, and since we all have heard that it doesn't grow on a tree, it's probably going to have to come through another person. So the point here is His provision will often involve help from other people, so walk in love wherever you go. And number 4, we had morals, we had methods, we had means, we have management. These are the 4 rungs up the ladder of success. Management. Jesus said in Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much shall be required. Every CFRN partner sees that up on the screen every Thursday night at the partner workshop. Right at the very beginning. To whom much is given, much is required. Some people act like it's over when God blesses them. Put something in their hand. No, that's the beginning. God doesn't bless us just so we can be blessed. Hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm blessed. No, God blesses us so that we can be a blessing to others. Remember how I said, if God's going to bless you monetarily, financially, it won't fall out of the sky in a duffel bag. It will probably come, from the hand of another person, or another person will be involved. So walk in love. And then we come right back around here, and we're talking about the same thing. Some people, when they get blessed, act like it's over. when it's the beginning. It's the beginning. It's your opportunity now to take this blessing that God has placed in your hand and in your life, to show God and all of heaven what you're going to do with it. What you have put into my hand, God. Are you going to multiply it, share it, or hoard it? When you learn the balancing act of divine flow, as blessings come into your life, rivers of living water flow out of your life. You don't want to become a stagnant pool, a super dump. No, no, no. Keep it flowing. Keep it flowing. God has a bigger shovel than you or I, because he's God. And when he shovels it in, it will shovel it out. We can't ever catch up to him, because he's God and he has the bigger shovel. Now, on this fourth rung of the ladder to success, we're talking about management. Jesus says, to whom much is given, much is required. Now, your biggest management challenge is going to be yourself. I think we all know that. Right? We get in our own way, we're our own worst enemy. Yeah. The psalmist wrote this: if you do what the Lord wants, he will make sure each step, he will make certain each step you take is sure. Make sure. When's the last time you went in for a checkup? You know, got in the prayer closet and just sat with God. You know, he spoke into your life years ago perhaps and gave you a very clear vision of why he created you, your purpose on this earth, and you've been working away at it. But where do you stand? Not in the eyes of man, but in the eyes of God. Ask him. He died so he could talk to you. Chat him up. Except don't do so much talking. I'm telling you, that works like a charm. If you've got 10 minutes that you can spend with God, if you'll spend 9 of those minutes just listening, I think you'll find that the experience is almost intoxicating. A heady elixir. And you'll find yourself going back to that prayer closet again and again. In fact, you'll begin to look forward to it. Because when you spend time with him and you allow him, when you sit quietly and allow him to speak truth into your life, good things happen. Good things. That's our good word for the day. 4 steps to success: morals, methods, means, and management. I guess it should be the 4 M's to success. All right, that's going to do it for this day, Monday, the 30th day of July, 2018. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.